Hello and welcome to Different Beat. I'm Tim.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And today we're going to be talking to you about Mortal Kombat X. So, Mortal Kombat X, our first fighting game that we've talked about since we started this channel.
It is.
I mean, as far as fighting games go, I don't play a lot of them. I mean, I tend to, I haven't even played all the Tekkens, and I'm pretty fond of them. But, you know, I play a few here and there, but I'm not really a diehard fan of any one in particular. So, Mortal Kombat 10, I wasn't really, like, hyped for, but I was intrigued by, I guess. It looked different enough. The thing that appealed to me most about it was how many characters they were bringing to the game. That's always been a big appeal for me, is a lot of playable characters. And the last Mortal Kombat that I really was, that really drew me in that same way was Mortal Kombat Trilogy back on the PS1, because it had an enormous cast of playable characters, and I really enjoyed that, even though back in that day there was mostly a lot of palette swaps, not a whole lot of character differentiation.
As far as my history with the series, I've actually played and beaten the majority of each character's storylines for every game in the franchise, sans Mortal Kombat Gold. So there was definitely a legacy for me picking up the Mortal Kombat titles at launch and playing through them because of my history and my fondness of Sub-Zero. So I do have a history with the franchise.
Yeah, you have been a staunch Sub-Zero fan from the day I met you.
I have. I've always I always loved the element of ice. And just the way they portray Sub-Zero has always been a way to draw me into a franchise. I gotta admit, though, I prefer BlazBlue. I mean, that's my fighting game of choice. And that's kind of a polar opposite to Mortal Kombat. So as you watch this video, keep that in mind. While I played the franchise, this isn't my particular blend of fighting game. And the games I do prefer are a much different speed and feel. So if you don't agree with my taste, that's certainly understandable. Just know that that's where I'm coming from.
So, as far as Mortal Kombat X goes, I guess let's start out with the story. That's where, I mean, that was the first thing that we did together when we played Mortal Kombat X, is we went ahead and we tried out the story mode. Well, I'm just going to be really frank here. As somebody who's not super up-to-date on their Mortal Kombat lore, so let's just say I'm brand new, okay? I know some of the lore, but let's just say I'm brand new for the sake of this review. Not really a very engaging storyline. I mean, the writing wasn't I didn't feel was very strong. The voice acting is not great. I mean, it's not the worst out there by far.
It's not Type Zero.
That's true. It's not great voice acting. It's not bad voice. It's not terrible voice acting. But it definitely takes away from when you're looking at the story as like an experience. It's just bad enough to where it almost feels like you expect it to be bad because it's a fighting game storyline, and most fighting game storylines are sort of an add-on. Most people play fighting games, at least under my understanding, for the competition part of it, the player versus player, the online play, competitive play in tournaments, etc. Most people are in there to fight somebody, not to go through the lore of whatever it is, because it's usually pretty shallow. And it felt shallow to me. It really felt like a lot of it was contrived just to make you play these new characters. It wasn't like this is a legitimate, these new characters that we've introduced in Mortal Kombat X are in the story for this important reason. It really felt like these are the new characters, and we need to shoehorn them into the story because now they're important, so use them. And that's sort of what it felt like to me. And I overall wasn't too impressed with the storyline of the game. That's not to say that all the characters I played were bad. That's not the case at all. In fact, I gelled pretty well with a few of them. Couple I really did not gel with at all. But that's, so don't take my saying that as the characters were bad too to play as far as fighting games go, because that's not the case. It was just the storyline I didn't quite gel with.
The storyline for me, it was a disappointment coming off Mortal Kombat 9. There are several reasons for that. One, it wasn't as strong. I didn't feel that they did well with the villains in this game. Shinnok felt kind of like an afterthought.
Yeah.
Kotal Khan didn't get the love I really felt he needed being the Khan after Shao, and especially how they handled him in the previous game. It was nice to see certain things happen. Sub-Zero and Scorpion. they're the faces of the franchise for a lot of people, and I get why they're always having them, you know, be opposites of each other, you know, including elements. But I mean, their rivalry has gotten old even as a Sub-Zero fan, so I was glad to see they kind of finally shelved that.
I will agree with you. That was probably the only, like, really enjoyable part of the story that I was like, oh, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Was the whole, them putting their pasts behind them for the sake of protecting Earthrealm. And because it's really cool, because you always in your mind think of Sub-Zero and Scorpion as these immensely powerful ninjas of opposite element, you know, and you're like, oh man, it was almost weird at first to see them in a cutscene together, not disemboweling one another. And so at first when they come together and you're like, oh, something's about to go down, and like you realize that now story-wise they're trying to get along. They still have a strained relationship, but they're willing to put that behind them and be comrades. And that was pretty enjoyable, but that was the only part that I really found enjoyable about the story.
Well, that was cool. The just overall storyline wasn't as engaging, and this may be because I have a history with the franchise. One, I don't enjoy Johnny Cage as a character, so having him be the new Earthrealm champion, I could take or leave. I mean, he's an improvement over Liu Kang, but again, it didn't interest me. But the introduction of what has been dubbed the Kombat Kids, Cassie, Kung Jin.
I really didn't like how they're all children of old characters. It
Yeah,
really felt
it's like, I'm not going to sit there and say they were terribly written, though I think how they literally kind of, you know, lobotomize each character when they're not the playable character, so they lose every chance they get. It is awkward, but at the same time, I just didn't care for them. I didn't find them to be improvements outside of Kung Jin, which I actually thought he was easily the best one of the characters, the way he talked to Kotal Khan. I found Cassie to be just awful, if I'm going to be honest. Jackie had potential, but I didn't care for her. And Kenchi's son, I can't even remember his name.
I don't do that.
I found him just annoying as sin. Coming off MK9 with Smoke, with Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and seeing the first 3 games played out in the way they did, outside of the infamous death scene, which was really awful, was a good fighting game, story experience, and this one just really left me wanting. Overall, it was a disappointment at that. And like I said, I do prefer BlazBlue, and in BlazBlue, their story, while it doesn't have as much production values, you don't have as many cutscenes, there's a lot of, like, just character, like, portraits talking.
Yeah. They
throw in a lot of added content where, like, there's fun extra scenes, like the weird issue with Ragna the Blood Edge and his crazy brother who, in outtakes, acts as though he's sexually attracted to his brother. But it's funny, and it's not meant to be taken seriously. And my favorite character, Tsubaki, they make jokes about her looking like she should play, like, Holy Order Soul. And while this does seem kind of like a tangent, it's really not, because there's some levity to it. They're willing to make fun of themselves, which adds to the overall package. And Mortal Kombat 10, at least,
you could almost accuse it of doing the opposite and taking itself too seriously.
And it took it away because, like I said, the Kombat Kids, for me, didn't click.
No, they really didn't.
So, overall, I kind of, when we finished the story mode, I was happy to be done with it. Because outside of the kind of 2.5 hour, 3 hour mark that we finished it at, I enjoyed 15 minutes of it.
And I made this comment to Beth. I thought it was kind of funny that the leaders of Mortal Kombat X, like this brave new hope for the future of Earthrealm, is all of these kids, this rat pack of kids that are all like the same age. Like they were all born at around the same time within the first couple of years of each other. And it was kind of funny that like all of them happen to be these world-class fighters that can all trump their predecessors. And it was like not one person had a kid that grew up to pump gas or flip burgers. They were all these great fighting prodigies. They could just whip the crap out of the Mortal Kombat characters that have been dominating for years. I mean, Sub-Zero gets totally punked by a new kid. Scorpion gets punked by one of the new kids. It's ridiculous.
Well,
that
to be
they're
fair,
all just like these super talented. I mean, yeah, granted, they're not going to kill these kids for story purposes. But it's like, it's still kind of like, really? I have to watch these kids I have no attachment to and just believe, I'm forced to believe that they're this awesome.
Well, Sub-Zero didn't really get punked. In fact, he beat all of them outside of one, and even then it was shown to be a test for him. But I mean, still, having Cassie be the finale, having her be the one to beat Shinnok,
Yeah.
It took away from it for me.
I don't think it
just
should have
didn't
been
care
her. I don't think it should have been her.
If it was going to be anyone of the Kombat kids, I would have actually preferred it to be Kung
Lao's
Jin.
kid, yeah.
Well, his cousin.
Oh, it's his cousin?
Yeah,
Okay,
no, he even says... Because, there's a history with the great Kung Lao and Kung Lao being these amazing fighters. And they kind of have that built up instead of them kind of shoehorning it in with Johnny and being like, oh, yeah, I'm actually this descendant of this great race and everything. And Cassie, who I know some people loved her, and more power to you. I just didn't like her as a character. I found her annoying. And the amount of times that she gets her ass just beat in the story mode, and then suddenly she turns it on and she beats the big bad, for me, it was disappointing. It was.
Yeah.
But moving on from the story, the fighting mechanics in Mortal Kombat X, I think, are probably the best the series has ever had. Unfortunately for me,
I'll agree with you.
I didn't gel with any of the characters outside of Sub-Zero, and that's largely because
you have more experience with Sub-Zero than any other character by far.
That's true. And plus, unfortunately, Smoke didn't make a return, and Smoke and Sub-Zero have always been my 1-2. And Mortal Kombat 9 had that, with the inclusion of Cyber Sub-Zero, which was crap, but that's neither here nor there. And with Smoke gone, and Sub-Zero having the 3 styles, well, that's okay, there just wasn't a breadth of characters that I could get into. And the speed of Mortal Kombat, like I said, I'm really attracted to the speed of Blaze Blue. And if anyone has played that, especially Tsubaki, you know how special heavy she is. So you're rapidly firing off all these moves, doing all these combinations. Speed of Mortal Kombat, at least when I'm going into competitive play, isn't something that gels with how I play fighting games.
Yeah.
So while I think Mortal Kombat X is probably the best it's ever been, for me, I didn't get a lot out of the experience outside of, it was a decent story mode, and I can recommend it to people that want this.
Yeah.
But it's not something I would carry forward in a tournament-style play.
Okay, so for me, when I was playing this Mortal Kombat game, the things I was looking at to determine whether or not I would want to recommend this game is, for one, how fun the characters are to use, the pace of the combat. I wasn't counting on anything story-wise, and that's, again, just because me personally, I never really think of a fighting game as a good medium to tell a story, because I've yet to play one personally I was really impressed by. So anyway, as far as the characters go and the fighting in the game, I thought that I'm sort of with Beth. Mortal Kombat's play style isn't really my cup of tea. I'm more of a Tekken fan, and also I dabble in like Street Fighter. And to me, it's like I tend to do much better over there than with Mortal Kombat's. They're just slightly too slow. I'm used to just a little bit faster. Also, it trips me up that there's a separate button for block. I'm so used to back blocking, and I know that's just my personal limitation. People are used to the franchise, are probably used to that, but that really threw me off at first. But as far as the fighters I tried, I mean, I really felt like there was a lot of good diversity there. There's definitely, I didn't come across any two that played like suspiciously similar. Yeah, there's some that have a lot of, like a lot of combos carry over between characters, a lot of their more simple chain combos. But I honestly expect that. I mean, when you're only working with 4 buttons, you expect that there's going to be a lot of repeat combos between characters. So I'm not going to dock it for that. Overall, I thought the fighting was pretty fun. The story mode is probably my least favorite. When I was doing the tower to get the single character story modes, and going up there, I thought that was probably the most fun I had with the game, was doing the towers. That was the most enjoyable. It was just me against CPU and getting some story for each of these characters that weren't included in the game storyline. So I thought the towers was really, I think that's really where the game has the most value for me. I'd probably do that a lot more. In fact, I could probably see myself going through every character's tower just because it was fun. It gave you a good opportunity to try each one, get a feel for it. You might not master them. You might master them. It's a good way to find your favorite, is what I'm saying. Doing those towers is a good way to really spend a quality time with a character that you want to get to know, and then be delivered some story as a reward for it. So it's like, oh, that's cool. So that was the most fun I had. We did some online play versus one another. It ran really smooth. We didn't really have
it did. I mean, the net code, as far as I've read, is not the greatest. We actually played via share play.
Oh, that's right, we did.
For the versus mode, and it actually handled decently well, especially for a fighting game. I don't want to speak out about the net code in versus over just regular net play, because we didn't do that. So I have no idea how that runs.
That's true. I forgot that we'd done it that way through share play.
We did.
But yeah. Yeah, SharePlay is awesome. God,
Yeah.
I love SharePlay.
So of course that means we reviewed our copies on the PS4.
Yes.
And it ran well. And like Tim, I think probably the best aspect of the game that I had was the towers. I do want to say one thing that is different from Tim. I don't think it's a speed issue, because especially if you're utilizing the run button, Mortal Kombat could possibly be one of the faster games.
I'm not going to say I'm playing the game correctly. I don't have nearly enough experience playing the Mortal Kombat franchise to be like, I know how to play Mortal Kombat.
It's just like, there's something when you get in the zone.
My problem is I'm trying to play it like Street Fighter, and that's my personal shortcoming.
Yeah, and see, that's the same thing with me. It's like, when you find, like, if you specialize in a fighting game, when it clicks, and you're in the zone. I mean, if you can master various ones, then more power to you. I don't have that ability. I have to focus on certain franchises, how they move, how they play. And my memory isn't good enough to know the matchups in every game. So that's the reason why I choose to focus on Blaze. And there's a certain air momentum with air dashes and things that Blaze has that I didn't feel that Mortal Kombat had. And that's the reason why I think it didn't click for me, because I am constantly air dashing. And while that speed may be there on the ground, I didn't sense it in the air. Damn. So that's why, again, I don't want to come across as really hammering Mortal Kombat, because Mortal Kombat is its own beast, and it deserves to be that, and it should be applauded for that.
Absolutely.
It for me, it didn't click.
Yeah, this game, if nothing else, if you're a long-standing fan of the series and you're like, oh, how's this Mortal Kombat? It is very much a Mortal Kombat game. It is Mortal Kombat through and through. If you love Mortal Kombat, you'll love Mortal Kombat X. I'm confident. I've played other Mortal Kombat games. Not all of them. I've skipped a lot. But I really think that they're really true to the formula in this one. The fatalities are nice and visceral. I mean, I didn't really see any, at least so far, but then again, I haven't seen nearly all of them. That was really like, Everyone I saw was cringeworthy. I really love the X-rays. I think they're done really well. They're easy to execute in combat. Really annoying when you whiff one. Man, really annoying when you whiff one. But really rewarding most of the time when you're able to pull it off. So it's like, it's got the visceral, it's got the brutal, it's got the blood. It of course carries over the lore. Lots of the series' favorite characters return. Even some that have died in previous games come back in Mortal Kombat X as playable characters. So that's really cool. So I mean, all in all, if you're looking for a quality Mortal Kombat, I can't say anything to the negative about Mortal Kombat X as a Mortal Kombat. It's a great Mortal Kombat title. Yeah,
I mean, this is really my last word on the franchise. Outside of Mortal Kombat 2, and this is, I'm sure, pure nostalgia talking, while it didn't have the cast I like, I would argue that Mortal Kombat 10, because I have played them all aside Gold, is the best game in the franchise, just from a combat perspective, from the speed, from the movement. It is really well done. And the diversity of the cast when you're fighting them and the feels
Absolutely.
that they have. It is a quality experience.
Yeah, I really like how every character in Mortal Kombat X is very different. It's like another, the past Mortal Kombat that was kind of humorous because, like in Mortal Kombat Trilogy, the one I was talking about, you had Air Mech, you had Smoke, you had Reptile, you had Sub-Zero, you had Scorpion, you had Noob Saibot. They were all, they had a couple unique abilities, but they were just palette swaps. Identical character models of I forgot Rain. How could I forget? So many ninjas! Just palette swapped in different colors. And in this one, every time you see one of those characters, they are vastly different in look and design, and I really appreciate that. It's like, they've actually taken these characters that were just those palette swaps, they've developed them, they've digested them, they've turned them into their own characters that will really stand out from one another, and I really got to give them props for that. I really think that's great. So, I mean, overall, I don't really have much else to say about Mortal Kombat X. Other than if you're a fan of the series, or you're even just looking for a solid fighting game that you could sink some time into and have fun with, I highly recommend it. It's really hard for me, honestly, to rate like on the 1 to 5 stars fighting games as compared to other games and other genres. I don't know why, but I just have a hard time with that. But I mean, as a game, I mean, I would give it a 3.5 stars. I mean, but as a Mortal Kombat title, it's like, then I feel like I have to rate it higher, because it's a great Mortal Kombat title. It's just not necessarily a game that I would otherwise be super interested in, and that's nothing to say to its detriment, other than I don't play a ton of fighting games. But as a Mortal Kombat game, I would even rate it higher. I'd say this, if you're looking for a great Mortal Kombat game, this is like probably a 4.5 star Mortal Kombat game. It's a great Mortal Kombat game. It's true to the series in every way you would expect it to be. Overall, I'm happy I experienced it.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I think, personally, fighting games are likely the most subjective genre of game from overall
I'd say that or,
design.
like, racing games.
Yeah, because it really comes down to feel and you connecting with it. While I didn't connect with Mortal Kombat on the level that some people will, I still say it's a solid 3.5 stars, maybe even 4, and that if you have any interest in it, you should most certainly get it and give it a shot, because if you think it could be for you, then it very well might. Yeah. And you have a very diverse cast that you can get hundreds of hours of gameplay out of, and amazing experiences in tournament play with the scene that it has.
I will say this, though. I will say this. Although I might not be sinking a ton of time right now into Mortal Kombat X, I will be there for the Jason Voorhees and Predator DLC characters.
Thank you.
I will be there for that because I am so hyped.
Thank you for adding Jason. Jason
and Predator.
Is my favorite
I
character,
love Predator. Predator has always been my favorite fictional character.
Though you should bring back Freddy so we can finally have Freddy versus Jason in a game.
And if anybody out there from NetherRealm is like looking at this, also maybe consider bringing in Gray Fox from Metal Gear Solid. Just saying. Gray Fox would be a great addition to the Mortal Kombat cast.
Oh, I don't need that.
Alright, so that's pretty much all I think we have to say about Mortal Kombat X, I think. I really have nothing else to add. How about you?
No, I'm right there with you. If you want to try it, get it. It's a great game, and that's really all there is.
Alright. Well, thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave your comments down below. If you liked this video, please let us know by clicking the like. We upload new videos every Sunday. In fact, next Sunday we will be reviewing Resident Evil Revelations 2. So check back for that. Feel free to subscribe so you can be notified when we ever release new content. Thank you for watching. I'm Tim.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And this was Different Beat. Good night.